What is going on, everybody? The time has finally come to review the bike that has been appearing on this channel a lot recently. It's the Bossi Grit Titanium. There's a lot to talk about, so let's go for it. Bossi Bicycles is a Sydney-based titanium frame brand. The Grit is their gravel-oriented rig, and it came to me because I needed something to test the new Shimano GRX. Bossi sent a full Grit frame set in size large, which includes carbon seat post and fork. They also sent their RD1 wheels and a titanium Bossi stem. It was all put together by a local Bossi dealer. The Grit itself is a well thought out frame made to a high standard. It looks premium with tapered head tubes, CNC dropouts, and a very clean cable entry and exit ports that are compatible with mechanical and electronic drivetrains. There's nice little design touches all over the frame with plenty of mount points. But there was one thing I was nervous about: a titanium press fit bottom bracket. Luckily, I didn't have to worry. The bike has been dead silent since day one. The frame did have the bottom bracket faced, which is always a good idea, but I am genuinely impressed that it has been so quiet. I've had a press fit titanium frame before, and it clicked forever. No matter what I did, it always made noise. Titanium can be such a temperamental material to make a bike out of. It's wonderful in so many ways, but a total bastard in others. But if you make sure your build is done properly, it is a fantastic frame material, and I'm a big fan of it. And if you buy from a company that is making sure that their quality control is done properly, then a press fit bottom bracket can be completely fine. They are only a problem when they've been made poorly, and the Bossi Grit just has all the hallmarks of a frame that's been made extremely well. The sum of all of its parts is very good. You do have to remember though that titanium is a graded material, so something like the Moots Root that I rode a few years ago does feel better. It's just made from a higher grade of titanium, so not all titanium is created equal. For a frame that costs basically 4,000 Australian dollars, the Bossi Grit is really excellent though, and sort of better than other titanium I've ridden at this price. Now, a couple of notes on the finishing kit. The fork is really nice with internal routing clearance for 700 by 55C tires, which is huge, and triple cage mounts on both sides, which is a fantastic little addition. The seat post is a fairly standard carbon 27.2mm unit with a nicely accessible and adjustable clamp. They're solid inclusions to a frame set that's $3,920. The Grit's geometry really is the key feature, and one that will sort potential buyers from those who should maybe look elsewhere. I describe it as a long-tail endurance GROAD frame with a tall front end and a short reach like an endurance road bike, but a very long rear end with chainstays a full 440mm in size large. It's different to so many gravel bikes that are closer to CX bikes like my Grove RAD, or some of the crazy new stuff that's closer to mountain bikes like the Evil Bike Chamois Hagar. Frame geometry is something that I don't think gets enough attention. People tend to buy the bike that they want to buy and then sort of figure out how they'll fit on it after the fact. And that's a kind of dangerous game to play because you could get something that's completely wrong for you in your particular type of riding. So I want to put the Bossi's geo in proper context. And firstly, the geometry just doesn't suit me personally. I would like it longer and lower at the front end. I do have fairly long arms and I felt a little bit cramped on this particular frame. But that's just me, and this is why people need to look at their geo charts. The Bossi most certainly will suit people who want a bit more of an upright position and aren't so fussed about having an aggressive front end. There's plenty of other bikes with an aggressive front end. This isn't really one of them, and it's sort of aimed at people who want that. There is one thing with the geometry: it's cutting it fairly fine with the front center measurement, which is basically the dimensions that determine whether there is a toe overlap. I did very occasionally on sort of very tight corners, mostly uphill switchbacks, get just a little bit of a brush from my shoes on the tire. But yeah, just a little bit of brushing. So the frame is cutting it very close in that particular dimension. It's not a big deal, but it is something that warrants a mention. As you'd expect, the Bossi Grit is a very pleasant bike to ride. It's just so damn chilled. Smooths out the road and gravel, making it comfortable on long and bumpy days. I've gotten to know the Bossi pretty well over the recent months, and I've done about 1,700 kilometers on it. I've taken it kind of everywhere you would expect a gravel bike to go, and probably a few places you wouldn't. And I sort of came to appreciate just how nice and chilled it is. That long wheelbase makes it very smooth, very planted, and very stable. It doesn't matter whether it's road or whether it's on gravel. It's just a poised and sort of chilled out bike. All of the carbon parts and the finishing kit make it very comfortable too. I will do a video about the RD1 wheels, but they made a huge difference to the comfort. I also rode this bike with the GRX Shimano wheels, and they were far less comfortable. Obviously the Bossi wheels are carbon and a lot more expensive, but I really do recommend people consider getting carbon wheels. Even if you've got an aluminium bike, it just makes a world of difference to comfort. The seat post is nice for the same reason. I like carbon seat posts, especially on bikes like this. They do just help to absorb a bit of the bump sort of going into your butt and into your back. This particular post isn't quite as amazing as something like the Syntace P6 High Flex, which is my all-time favorite post, but it does a pretty good job and it is included with the frame set. So it's a good piece and I do quite like it. For those people preferencing just a chilled and a smooth ride, the Bossi Grit really does deliver a lot. As much as I like the frame, it does have its limitations, and I'll return again to the geometry I mentioned above. It's not the shreddiest bike. It occasionally felt a little bit cumbersome on technical terrain. And that's just the trade-off that you have to make for the geometry. This is a bike that's much more comfortable threading the tarmac than shredding the gnar. And that's totally fine, and this is why people need to sort of have a close look at the geometry chart before they're buying, so they know what it is they're going to get. As long as those are the characteristics that you are looking for in a bike before you buy, then I think you will be very happy with this particular frame. Ultimately, the buyer is someone who's attracted to the material and the geometry. This bike has quite a unique character to it. Not everyone will be pleased by it, but those who want a very well made and extremely chilled bike with relaxed geometry will love it. Really, if you heard long tail endurance GROAD and you were interested still, then you are a potential buyer for this frame. If you heard that exact phrase and thought, nope, that's not for me, then, you know, you're not a buyer for this frame. Me personally, I like a bit more of an aggressive gravel bike, but again, that's just me. There's not a whole lot of bikes that fill this particular niche. The Grit definitely has its own identity. It's not going to please everyone, but it does have an identity. Ultimately, the Bossi Grit is well made, competitively priced, and fills a market gap for super chilled gravel grinding rigs. I've come to quite like it, despite the fact it's not my ideal bike personally. I love cycling products that realize their purpose, even if that's not my particular purpose, and the Bossi Grit certainly does that. And for the buyers who are looking within this category for a bike with these particular characteristics and are into titanium, then you will be very happy with this. It does get a firm recommendation from me. Just make sure you know what you're buying with the Bossi Grit, and I imagine that you will be very satisfied with your purchase. And that is where I'm going to leave it. Thank you so much for joining me. I have a full written review on La Velocita in the description below. Thank you for joining me. As always, don't forget to like, subscribe, all that stuff. It helps me out. As a small channel, I really appreciate it. Take care, ride safe, stay healthy, and I will see you next time.